Welcome everybody to another CIRF report. Now we have an influence and we have a solution like we do in normal weeks. The amazing thing is this could be, including the Schumann resonance that we're going to talk about, a direct overlap. And so although the influence might look a little bit, scary, anxiety ridden, there is a really great outcome as we explore today's CIRF reporter this week from July 9th through July 15th. And so anyway, I think this is going to be a fairly short CIRF report because the astrology is fairly simple. We'll go through like one or maybe 3 days worth of it and go into depth, and that's about it. The whole week pretty much stays the same. And as you can see here on the summary slide, there's a lot of ego opportunities. It all kind of hinges around where the sun is and its aspects to Neptune and Neptune over to Jupiter. Now we'll get into all that. But anyway, it starts out with like squares and sesquisquares. So it's like agitation and conflict early in the week. But then it starts opening up into opportunity, thinking sextiles and trines. And that's from the astrology standpoint. Guess what we have with the I-Ching 39, temporary obstacles, which when we read that, you're going to see how this is a direct overlap of the astrology. Then we get into the dream bot, which we're going to start with first. Well, no, actually, we're going to do that second after the Schumann resonance. But anyway, eventually I got to put the Schumann resonance thing in here somehow. But I'll incorporate that. Look at this congruency, 0.99. We'll explain all this. We'll break it down. It should be the shortest CIRF report ever. After this. All right, we start off with our graph, the Schumann resonance. First of all, for those of you who are new, what are we doing with a CIRF report? We're triangulating to get the main influence so that we can have the right solution going forward and maximizing our behaviors, our actions, to maximize for our benefit the energies that are afforded to us. That's plain and simple. So what we're adding here is the Schumann resonance. The Earth vibrates at a certain frequency. And what we're proposing with this graph, I'm getting this off of line. If you want to know where it's coming from, it's in the show notes down below. And what I'm proposing is that the Earth is not just an entity in and of itself. It vibrates its own frequency, but it is affected by our collective energies and vice versa. So when Schumann goes up, that affects the qualities of our frequency and our mental aptitude and our emotions and all that, even behaviors. But I think what I'm proposing, it's vice versa as well. In addition, so if we're like all in fear and the collective in fear, I bet you that affects very slightly, very subtly, but maybe potentially strong, the frequency output of the Schumann resonance. So this is a graph in the different locations of the antennas around the world. And what we proposed is that if you can barely see, let me get my highlighter out. The higher the frequency, we're trying to simplify this for our understanding, and it might be too simplistic, but I think it works for right now, is that as you go down in frequency, which is what you're seeing here over the course of the year, September 2019, November, that's the start of COVID, allegedly, and then all the way down into May, and then suddenly we start to increase again. So we're proposing that this is kind of like the frequency of the collective mind / the Schumann resonance, the frequency of the Earth. No coincidence that these overlaps these statistics overlap directly with the COVID news, the global pandemic, if you will. But this chart up here is just for the last week. And what we're seeing here is there was increasing, and then just it's been lately, as of just the past couple of days, been on a slight decrease. This is kind of after kind of a new peak with the July 4th. And, especially with the red I mean, plus or minus 1 day. And then ever since it's been slightly lower. And so what that would represent then is explained in the rest of the CIRF report, where if you want to make it real simple, the collective unconscious is kind of in a more anxious state. And as you can confirm this with the COVID graph, more and more fear drives the Schumann resonance down, down, down. And then up we go into May. But now we're kind of on that down trend. Well, I'm proposing here that the rest of the CIRF report will explain this. So here we have the DreamBot. Oh man, the DreamBot. I started to make arrows connecting these different things and started to realize this is all Mercury. This is all in the stars. It's also Gemini, which hint is the solution. Gemini, Mercury. It's all about thinking, adapting, learning, communicating, etc. But what's this one blue arrow here? Feelings. What about feelings? That doesn't really apply. Well, it just so happens Mercury's in Cancer, and Cancer is the water sign with all these feelings. And so I think this is, in my opinion, a Mercury sort of run in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer. I'm not going to even explore the exact words there, but you'll see why this is important when we talk about the astrology and the solution. So here's our overview of the astrology. And as you can see, the squares and sesquisquares are starting out the week. And then the predominance of these greens, which are, this is a sextile, this is Jupiter sextile Neptune, and then a couple trines. Now this red down here towards the end, those aren't, there's only one sesquisquare, but it's an opposition. And oppositions aren't particularly bad. It's just you're forcing to have to balance something out. And so they could be a very good thing. But in general, you're looking at some obstacles in the front, conflicts that are petering out by midweek. And then these more beneficial opportunities and easy energies are appearing together. And so we have, in general, like an expansive dreams for, it's almost like a contraction and then an expansion, because we got the Jupiter thing, the Jupiter alignment in there. All right, so here we go. Let's look at the diagrams more specifically. This is an ego journey, and it's double because you've got the sun, that's ego, identity, and it opposes expansive Jupiter and death, rebirth, Pluto, inner power, powerful Pluto. And so we've got a balancing act there. But meanwhile, those two also have a sextile, two opportunities over to Neptune. So Neptune getting approached by the moon, making it extra mysterious and extra mystical and extra emotional, maybe fantasy driven and escapist. It's easy for the ego to have this in. So if the sun is faced with this need to balance, that can kind of feel like just too much effort. But the energy is much easier going over to Neptune, because Neptune is in a trine. And there's 3 here, and it's also the moon and Neptune. And so what we have is easy energy, and the kingpin sort of is the dreams. And so we can dream a new future for ego. We can dream of an expansive death and rebirth for ego, And so my point here is that it's easy energy, and it's an opportunity, and ultimately sun is going to balance those things out and find a new day and find a new way to, if the sun is in Cancer, is sort of nurturing and motherly, protective, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of the nature of this ego journey this week, is the sun in Cancer. And then we also have Venus sextile Mars. So, male is opportunistic with female. This is a good, harmonious sort of energy. And by the way, you've got Mars in its home sign of Aries. And so there's opportunity here. It's not just male and female. There's all sorts of other archetypes, being able to fight for your money. There might be a powerful way to think in a more harmonious way, sextile and Gemini together. So anyway, lots of different ways to look at that, but that's all that I just talked about is going to be through the entire week. You can see these squares are already starting to fade out. The segmented lines here indicate that an old alignment has already went exact, and now it's on the waning side of that. All right, so Friday, we got the same energy. So the waning square, even one of them dropped off. All we're left with is the sextiles, the trines, and the oppositions. So same thing on Friday. Saturday, got the same thing. The moon now is it's already past its square with Mercury. You might feel that energy as the moon sort of douses Mars with a little bit of water. Moon being very water driven. It's quite the opposite of the yang sort of Mars. So it's kind of dousing a little bit of water on the fire, if you will. But you still got that basic energy with Neptune, and Neptune's still opportunistic and showing you things. It's, this could be fantasy, it could be false, it could be a fake future, but we are expecting to have some sort of opportunity there. So at some point, it's going to have to be, giving you some creative insight about what a better move is for your ego. All right. So on Sunday, we have, unfortunately, a T-square. And, this is right in the middle of our CIRF report, right in the middle of the week. It's the time when Mercury is now going direct in Cancer. And so, the center point of this T-square being kind of like a trap, it's the emotions. The emotions, the fired up emotions in Aries are going to be your trap. And so, just so you know, the I-Ching, as I I failed to mention before, but there was no change lines. So there's no difference in the solution that we're going to talk about next. So the influence is the solution. And I think this is the kingpin, or this is the part of the main hub of where the influence is coming from. Because remember, the I-Ching said temporary obstacles. Well, this is all obstacles. It's 2 by obstacles and 2 by obstacles over here. 4 squares on the moon and a double opposition. So we're looking at a mega T square with your emotions at the centerpiece. So when obstacles show up, it's going to be determined how you react to that. It's going to be the reaction is the key. The reaction is the key. The reaction is going to be the key. All right, we're done with that. It's going to be fiery emotions with those T-squares. Mercury's finally going direct, and he's got full strength, although in Cancer, it's kind of watered down thoughts, nurturing thoughts, protective thoughts, and he's still not Cazimi yet, but we're going to have in the next few CIRF reports a Cazimi Mercury. But Neptune still got its opportunities. All right, now the prominent feature here, as everything else seems to start decaying out, other than our Neptune sextiles and opportunities, is the Sun oppositions now. We're all 3. Expansive Jupiter, death and rebirth Pluto, and then the law and order of Saturn. This could be another way of Sun having to take balance, because the ego's got to balance all these other factors in there, which make your opportunity, and around we go. It's back to what could be, which is Neptune, and it's up to you to figure out that new way and move forward. And I will explain this a little bit better as we triangulate. Same sort of energies on Tuesday. Wednesday, your emotions more now in Taurus and more in the material world, as Uranus continues to change up what you see in the material world. And we have easy trines down to what the Sun is grappling with in terms of balancing. And it's an easy sort of emotional day. It's an easy energy of this whole ego journey. So we're starting to enjoy what we've already learned before. All right, so now let's get this off and talk about the I-Ching reading. So the influence ended up being the solution because there were no change lines. That's just to the right of those of this hexagram 39, water over mountain. If you can imagine what water looks like going down a mountain, it's all over the place, and you're not going to stop water, and it's just going to keep flowing. So if it hits a tree, the water goes around the tree. And that's what we're doing here. Temporary obstacles or obstruction is what the hexagram 39 is. In the course of trying to reach a goal or fulfill an ambition, temporary obstacles will invariably present themselves. This is not always a bad thing. Obstructions, difficulties, and even setbacks can eventually be overcome and become assets. This is exactly what we started to see with the astrology, because you've got the sun and Jupiter, expansive, positive, and Neptune with new dreams, being able to see new things, and the ego adjusting to all those with opportunities, so sextiles. So now this last sentence, without irritating grains of sand, oysters would never make pearls. And that to me sounds a whole lot like Saturn, which, by the way, Saturn only comes in on that opposition with ego, with sun, towards the end of the week. So I think the fire and brimstone, if that shows up to hone you, to make your pearls, that might be later on in the week. But not for everyone, I don't think. The obstacles pointed out here are not permanent, yet they are in the way for the time being. As when a large boulder falls in the middle of your route, the best course of action is to usually go around it rather than try not to move out of the way. Temporary obstacles need to be seen for what they are, temporary, and are not allowed to take on too much significance. They will probably feel significant this week. So what you have to do is, let me hold off on that part because we need to triangulate the whole thing first. So let me finish this. Go around the boulder. Don't put your shoulder to it. All right. So remember, this is the influence, I-Ching, but also the solution. The influence is the solution. All right. An unchanging line means obstructions that paralyze equals movement is necessary. The obstruction you face is something that can't be changed until you change the way you approach it. So your perspective is going to be different. That's why Neptune is in here. And also Mercury is the solution, but we'll get to that later. Chances are the obstruction is specifically appearing insurmountable because it isn't even real. All right, let's look at the sidereal. And here we are. We've got the sun's journey. I snipped this at the time when, of course, the sun's not progressing all that far throughout the week, but I snipped it right in the middle of the week at a time when Sagittarius just happens to be in the perfect spot to put into our template. And so that's the sun in hexagram 53 in Cancer, tropical Cancer. 53 is what we're going to look at in the Rave Mandala. And our solution for the week becomes Gemini. That's where it is. This was what the Dreambot was already doing. The Dreambot was the solution. And you might have, for those of you who are keen and really watching, and you would have said, no, he said Mercury. Well, I mean, Mercury is the epitome of Gemini. It's the home to Gemini. Gemini is the sign, and Mercury is the planet. Same sort of thing. And by the way, Mercury in Sidereal Astrology, Mercury is in Gemini. So we have an extra keen mind right now for the solution, which is exactly what we need. Now, here's the cool thing. What is hexagram 53, which is the Rave Mandala, says, the gate of beginnings, it's maturation. This is the fuel of the maturation process. The sensing circuit is all about transition and change. It is the energy to start a new cycle, regardless of the changes that it brings. Does this not sound exactly what we've been talking about? This gate carries the potential of depression, just so you know. Most of you, I'm thinking, are going to feel more anxiety as we adapt to the change, but some of you might feel depression. The pressure is to begin and ultimately complete a cycle. So that's where the pressure is coming from, according to the Rave. This is an energy which is always seeking new beginnings. The intensity to start one moment might fall away in the next moment. Wait and see. All right. Let's go ahead. We're getting ready for the end here, the summary slide, and I will go ahead and switch over here. And our sponsor is interzention.com. If you are faced with this boulder syndrome, just like this guy here, and don't know where to turn, interzention.com, sign up for some help, and we'll get you squared away. This is for mental health counseling, but also life coaching, and even astrology readings and human design. When I zoom in this Schumann resonance, it seems to be very blurry. But basically what we get out of this is at the very end of this, the last few days, the Schumann resonance has decreased, and we're proposing that that's a little bit more anxiety as we kind of grip this, what seemingly is a big obstacle. But according to the I-Ching, this is just a temporary obstacle. In fact, the obstacles are going to turn to opportunity. Let's check out the big summary slide. The solutions. The side of the slide that is the solution. All right. I-Ching 39, same I-Ching reading. Movement is necessary. Remember, it said to change your perspective if necessary, and we have to learn from it. All that implies Gemini, and Gemini just happens to be the Sidereal Astrology for this week. So what is Gemini? Versatile, alert, communicative, intelligent, rational, witty, agile. These are the sorts of things that you want to accentuate in your being, even if you're not a Gemini, and you want to avoid lecturing at people. These are kind of the downsides of Gemini. Cunning, know-it-alls. Don't be a know-it-all. Don't be too nervous, and watch out for anxiety. The Rave Mandala is 53. It's a gated beginnings. It's this fuel for maturation. So that harkens back to this, opportunities are going to be coming of the obstacle. All right, so let's go for the overall triangulation, which, by the way, is a much bigger overlap. In fact, I'd put all those things just right together because the solution is together. It's exact. It's get ready to adapt. And just so happens that Mercury and Gemini are very adaptable, being nimble and adjustable. No fretting for the temporary obstacles that show up. Build confidence and excitement towards the opportunities that arise before the obstacles appear. So this is your opportunity right now to start affording yourself excitement, because not only are you going to see obstacles, but these obstacles are going to be appropriate and force you to have to change your perspective, be able to learn and hone your skills and mature as a human being and evolve and learn. So you develop the excitement and the confidence that goes around adapting, and prepare for that. Prepare for that way. Don't prepare for, I think what the collective is doing down here in the Schumann resonance, the collective, I think, is just kind of gripping because they don't know what's coming, and, almost creating an obstacle in and of itself. So back to our triangulation, watch out for anxiety and decompress ASAP. In other words, expect to have anxiety because there's going to be some adapting. Anytime we adapt, there's some sort of stress there. So there's sort of a pressure. So decompress that anxiety and realize it's just temporary. But remember too, this is not the time for and this too shall pass. That's not really appropriate. It's not just sitting around fretting and waiting for the obstacle to clear itself. This is going to take an active part in all of us. So individually, you got to get ready to be adaptable, because once you start your change, it's going to force yourself to see something different, and that's going to be the opportunity. All right, it's not, the opportunity is not just going to reveal itself. It's going to be coming in your action, in your adaptation to the obstacle. So remember to switch your anxiety into excitement before the opportunity arrives and before the obstacle arrives. Your main opportunity might be growth. It doesn't sound like a whole lot. In fact, that's the Rave Mandala. It says this is your maturation. It's a transition. It's change. So don't be surprised if your main benefit from this obstacle is being stronger, being faster, being better, being more adaptable, being more intelligent, whatever it is, but growth. Maybe some of you get material benefit from it, but don't expect that. Expect that the biggest opportunity for this week is going to be growth as a human being or as a spiritual entity. All right, and that wasn't meant to scare. This is meant to see that there's more to the pie than just problems coming at you. So I want you to switch off the anxiety and turn on the excitement to this growth that you're going to have as an individual. All right. All right. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments below. And we'll see you next week for another surf report. Thanks, everybody.